Hi everyone, welcome back to another time-lapse. This one was a little special since it's a partial continuation of a idea I've been going for. This lady right here is a vengeful spirit of a wishing well. She's like the guardian, a genie all in one. She's supposed to be really mad and angry. So here I'm kind of just trying out poses and seeing. The idea was to make her kind of like a shrine maiden. So here I'm trying out some ghostly poses. I want her to look angry and mad as she's looking at you. The left one kind of makes her look a little bit sad. So all I'm trying to do here is see, does she need to look down at you? Can she kind of look away, look down, kind of in her thoughts, that idea. But eventually, or even this one where her head's kind of turned up and she's looking at you that way, in the direction. After I choose from those, I go in and do what I've been trying to do, just get in a groove of things where I try to find how big I want the eyes to be. And since this is more of an older woman, looking into my research, it seems to be, if you want them to look younger, bigger eyes, older, smaller eyes. So here I'm just messing around with trying to figure out the right pupil size. I wanted her to really show emotion as she's looking away or looking at you. It's all just about figuring out the direction and the angles and messing around with pixels. I'm looking at references and everything online to see, okay, does it need to be this big? As I'm still learning with pixels and sizes, so the idea of it being that huge eye was really daunting, and I changed my mind, made it smaller, even if the eye doesn't have as much detail, as I'm slowly working my way to bigger sprites, but for now, just smaller. And here I'm trying to figure out, okay, the head's kind of to the side and down. I'm using the white line as an indicator of the direction of the head to help me figure out, and makes it a little bit easier. As I figure out the eyes, it's a matter of figuring out the facial expression. I've realized that it makes her look sad, and I want her to look angry. I need her to look vengeful, not sorrowful. The idea behind her is that children used to come to the wishing well with wondrous dreams, but then they started getting really greedy, and they started wishing for things above what children should wish for, or something to that extent. So it's a thing of her being tired that wishes aren't wishing good, or at the very least, maybe a kid might wish for someone to get hurt, or because they've been bullied to that extent, or just, I want more money instead of, I want a new toy, things like that. She got angry that the children are getting so greedy at the wishing well that she's vengeful now, and she's taking their souls. She's taking their souls and locking them in the wishing well. Here it's just a matter of, okay, not poltergeist, but just ghost. Ghostly, spirity, and water. The idea was here. I wanted to show off genie and water and ghost and spirit. The idea was going for, I have her looking down at you, angry, and instead of her arms being crossed, I want them out, and I try to figure out the silhouette of a character. That's what I'm going for here. I'm just trying out different sizes and shapes, and I definitely think the end result of her hair isn't what I envisioned. It was just kind of a scribble I wrote down, but I'm happy with it. After I figure out the general idea of what I want to go for, I've been trying something new here, where I start off with an outline and go around and outline everything instead of blobbing to kind of help make things a little bit easier to read. After I figure out her face and thought about making her hair, her eyelashes white, decided nope. So here I'm just kind of messing around with colors. I've been using this palette and trying out new things and kind of going off of that. The idea behind her hair was that it was like water, so it was very wet and very drippy and very dropletty. Is that a word? And I come back to this one. This is the final idea and result I go for. But it's the idea of getting around to messing around with shapes and designs. The idea was that if I made her hair sharp, she'd look more dangerous, but it wouldn't really feel watery, right? This thing of trying around and seeing what I can come up with. I put on a 10-minute timer to see how many designs I could make up, and then go back, and depending on which one I choose, that's the one I'll go with. And I think I like this approach instead, where it's a matter of trying out a lot of different ideas and seeing which one sticks and going with it and moving forward. I thought maybe I don't even know what you call those, the things I have below my head for my hair, the kind of swirler, it's kind of floating to give that whole spectral feel, but in the end, like I said, I go back and choose that more puffy look. Here I decided, okay, maybe I try the blob method, but blob method also doesn't work out. It looks a little wacky and funny. At the end, I go with that more roundish feel. I'm just trying to see. Blob work? No. So after I choose this hairstyle, I go back in and edit it a little bit. I try to round out the edges and corners. I want it to look like drops of water. For example, the round edges, maybe they kind of go up and down, and then if it were animated, the drops would lump together and pool and drop. But since she's a ghost, she's not required for gravity. I've been trying to get better at just clothing, so here I'm trying to figure out the shadows and the folds. I'm adding more to the layers, trying to keep everything organized. Again, I'm trying to make sure I have everything with an outline. I'm just going back and forth with figuring out an overall shape and feel and shadow for the design. I'm trying to keep in mind, okay, the fabric goes forward, backward, forward, backward. So let's add forward, backward, forward, backward. It's supposed to be, this part at least is over her hand. So let's fold it over. It's very flowy was the idea. And then at the bottom, again, just flowy and round. I wanted the silhouette idea, so I wanted to make sure that her hands were far away enough. I thought maybe I could add that drippy feel to the fabric, but it didn't look nice, so I changed my mind. Here I thought about adding a shawl, I think it's called, where it's over the shoulders, but I didn't like the silhouette. Made it look a little bit more like a clown than anything, with the rufflet under her neck. So I changed it. It's me. Nah. Her body kind of looked a little bit too stretched as I'm figuring out the torso. So I slide that up, and I think to myself, okay, well, while she is looking down at you, what if she was looking directly at you? Again, with the whole eyes being bigger versus smaller, more mature faces tend to have the eyes further above the head than younger faces. But it didn't look nice, so I went back and changed it. Here I'm trying to figure out the shoulder and dress design. I thought maybe, okay, exposed shoulders, just a little bit scandalous. Exposed shoulders, having a long sleeve, as again with the over her hands, it's gotta have longer sleeve. And that's what I went with. Just something flowy and simple-ish. Next up, I think about, okay, how can we show off Ghost? I thought maybe we can have a skeleton underneath her clothing and her body, so the dress is see-through, which then shows off her body, which is see-through. That didn't work out, but it was a try and it was an attempt, and that's all that matters. After that, and I'm checking my notes here, you see me glance this way, I'm just going in and figuring out, okay, next, wishing well. How can I show off wishing well? I thought maybe having the coins around her hips. I almost said belt. That didn't work. Okay, well maybe first let's try figuring out the water, the wishing well idea. And for this, I do a trick I did a while ago when I made a waterfall, which is just doing multiple layers into a gradient and sort of round, bubbly feel. At the bottom, I start off with foam. From the references I'm looking at, the hair or just the design starts off with a foam. So it's a foamy bottom, and then I just keep going around and layering. Here I'm trying to figure out my colors. I liked using the palette as just a jump start, that way I don't have to think about colors too much, but here as I'm going in and adding more details and extra colors, I want to make sure everything looks right, everything is good with values, and everything is popping out correctly. I'm just going around adding my circles and my dots to show a nice cute gear. Well, I said cute, but I mean, it's spooky. I tried to go for more of a spooky feel. If anything, it kind of looks like a blue lava lamp in my opinion, but I try to make sure I don't use green. One of my worries when doing this was that she looks like maybe a slime woman. I'm hoping here that sticking more towards the cool colors and not more towards the warmish green will help her look a little bit more oceany and watery. I definitely wanted to go for more green fill just because of water. Well, water, right? But that didn't turn out well. So I went with more cooler colors. I'm just going in and trying to figure out, okay, everything around her, everything on the edges is foamy and oceany, and well, she's water, but foamy and oceany. And after doing that, I'm just going in and filling everything, trying to figure out my shadows and my colors and making sure everything looks nice and making sure the values light up. I'm adding the dots, lining her face so that it looks right and that you can see it even if it's in black and white. One of my favorite things to do is to just go to color mode and do the black and white so that I can see the values. And for me, if it looks good in black and white, that means my contrast is really good. and I like a really good contrasted character. After I do all of those things, I go around with the outline. So I put the outline on its own layer, and then I'm just going in and changing the outline. Here, usually I do a dark outline, but since she's a ghost, I make it a very bright outline. Instead of it being white, it's these very high saturated tones to hopefully make her look more unnatural than just normal browns or darker colors. After that, I mess around with her eyebrows again. I'm just trying to make her look angry, but every time I add eyebrows, it looks weird. So after that, I'm adding the overlay to hopefully show off the wrinkles and the shadows in her clothing, and just messing around with the layers and the different effects that we call them. I really like this one, the green ones. That was really cool, but wasn't what I was looking for. So I thought to myself, okay, well, blue, orange, those are really contrasting colors, and that's what I went with. I just used orange to outline the shadows and her hair, add a little bit of, hey look, there's shadowing here. And I think that came out well. I thought about adding the skeleton, and this is where I changed my mind and realized skeleton's not going to work out. It's not very clear. So then I changed my mind a lot. But here I wanted to try to add that wishing well feel to her. So I add in coins inside of her body. Again, kind of like a slime where slimes have stuff in their body, but for this one at least, the idea was to have coins floating around in her body as if these are wishes that she's completed. It starts off, well, I start off with green, but green didn't look nice, and so this comes down to a matter of testing colors, testing blending modes, and figuring out, does it look like coins? And at this point, I don't think it does, and even when I'm done, kind of doesn't, but I'm trying, and I keep moving along, just going to the yellows and the oranges, and trying to make sure my shading's correct, and trying to show off a subtle hint of coin in her body, so if you squint, it doesn't look like the foamy dots, but it looks like its own thing. That was one of my worries, and kind of still is, so if it looks like coins, I did my job. From here, I'm kind of adding and subtracting. I only add the coins to the blue layer since it's the blankest, but after I figure out everything of those, it's done! So, what do you think? Does she give off spooky maiden, wishing well, guardian, spirit, vengeful lady, angry? I kinda think so. If you have any suggestions for characters that are spooky month related, leave them in the comments below and I'll take a look. Thank you to Colonel for being a Patreon member of mine, and with that, I'll leave you with a little bit of a blinking animation, and I'll be on my way. Have a good one.